fake. Good block in there, and down it goes. Caught at the 30. This is the dynamic Hill. He's in for 6. Tyreek Hill, touchdown. What a block by Isaiah Wynn to buy 2 a time, and they're dancing early in South Florida. Berrios on the move, pitch out A-Chain, blocked by Berrios, blocked by Armstead. Look at him dive! Look at him score! With a second down and goal. Oh, look at that! Shovel pass, A-Chain breaks a tackle and dives for 6.
Penalties, but a couple of big defensive plays.
Fake to Mostert, 1st and 10. Here they go with Hill. Turner Young got him, but they couldn't bring him down. He's so elusive. It's a foot race. And he got by Surtain. He gets a block downfield from Berrios.
By Tyreek Hill. Not taken to the ground. Let's see if his knee's down.
Mostert is in. 1st and 10. Here's the call. The big gain. He broke a tackle of Sanders. He gets by the defensive back Mathis and takes it in for 6. Mostert a 20-yard touchdown run.
And the timing of it, they've had some production.
2nd and 10. Nice catch as Sutton drops it. It's picked up on the play. Van Ginkel, Wilkins a block. Look at the linebacker go. A-Chain spinning. Mostert blocked in there. Touchdown. A touchdown run. And they'll dance their way to a 34-10 lead. Everything going right for Miami. 4th and goal. A-Chain. Oh, that's Mostert who takes it in. 1-yard touchdown run. Right here, Sutton gets by Holland, punched away. He fumbles again. Miami has got it. Sutton has fumbled for a 2nd time in this one. Mostert was in the backfield, 3rd and 7 against the call. There's a nice block from Hill. Oh, look at the move! Dazzling display. Touchdown, Miami. Mostert. 19-yard touchdown. Batted down. Intercepted on the ricochet. Intercepted on the play by Ogba. Another turnover, the 3rd by the Broncos. Gives Miami this great position, 2nd and goal. Shovel pass. A-Chain. Touchdown. 3rd down, 10. 32, White going deep. Oh, he's got Chosen. Beating Surtain for 6. The former Robbie Anderson. That's regular season. 2nd down and 2. A-Chain, big hole. Turns it on, accelerating. You can kiss him goodbye. 69 points on a 67-yard touchdown run by A-Chain. His 2nd rushing touchdown and his 4th today. Between the coaches here, this will be interesting. And Sean Payton, classy move by both men.
Certainly was a great game. The Dolphins put in a 70-burger, an historic 70-burger on the Denver Broncos. It was out of this world, if you ask me.
It's another one of those games reminiscent of last year against the Baltimore Ravens when Tua threw for 6 touchdowns. That comeback, again, we'll talk about it later. Kevin Harlan calling that. Coincidence? I think not. But it's one of those games where you just can't get enough of the highlights because there was just so many of them. And it's interesting watching the same ones over and over again. You didn't realize they did that conga line dance. That was like the 5th touchdown. Yeah. You know, it feels like it was later in the game, but it was a much longer game than I'd expected. Went like 3.5 hours, something like that. But it was absolutely awesome. But I've got some thoughts on it.
Well, I had to think so far back to the last days of John Shula to remember a game like that. Like that game that against the Jets when they season opener. That game they had at least 17 first round picks on the team. Uh, uh, the Dan Marino comeback. Those days of joy. It's been a long, long, long time since the Dolphins being able to to control the game, to score at will the other team. So it was just phenomenal. I was so happy with
I think one of the most interesting things, and this is something that I don't think many teams really get a chance to experience, is that 3 weeks now we've come out with three different game plans, or at
it. So,
least three different sets of results that we have delivered. Go to the Chargers, it was deep ball. Tua just absolutely obliterated them, 466 yards through the air. We wore them down through the passing game. Defense took a little while to show up, but they showed up at the end. Next week, Patriots week, defense shows up, they ball out, transition that game like we had talked about last week, where McDaniel came out on the run. Tua still had a respectable day, but we didn't put everything on his shoulders. And then this week, again, totally different set of game plans, stuff that they hadn't shown before. And clearly, I think when the game progressed and McDaniel said, we don't have to put this on Tua's shoulders,
mhm.
we're going to set this running game loose. But it's just another, it's a little bit more evidence that what we're experiencing right now is something that we haven't, didn't expect. I said a couple of years ago, last year, that the way that they were setting up the team with Hill and everything, I called this at that point because I knew how fast Mostert was, knew he had the speed, that this was going to be the best thing since the fastest show on turf. I think
Mhm.
that's how they called it in St.
Yeah,
Louis,
I
the
think
the
so.
Kurt Warner years and everything. It didn't materialize last year for several different reasons. But then, on the get up just now, the promo you just showed, or the video, they mentioned that themselves, on the ESPN show. This is seriously the most electric, and it might be more electric than what that greatest show on turf was at that time.
Yeah, you said that. It's funny when I saw A Chain running with that 28. I remember so much about Marshall Falk. It was like it was surreal. It was just
Yeah.
surreal. Well, we're gonna be joined now by our esteemed panelist, Mr. 20 and 0 man answer on the controversial Eddie Chappell. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
Well, guys, it was out of this world. Like I said before to Steve, it was incredible. It's been so long since we've seen a game like that. I want to start with you, Matt. What are your thoughts about the game?
I'm exhausted first and foremost, just watching the highlights that you ran at the beginning. They're literally exhausted, tired of watching another touchdown, another touchdown. Um, how fun was that? It's been a long time that we've seen that kind of fireworks, that kind of firepower. But in our history as fans of this team, we watch those kinds of fireworks, and we talked about it last week. Going back to Marino, we talked about how you knew you had a dog in the fight. You knew you had a chance, right? But something really interesting happened on Sunday. Forget the 10 touchdowns. I want you to think about 8 of those touchdowns. 8 of those touchdowns came on the ground. So much talk has been about Tua, Tua, Tua. Is he a good quarterback? Can he throw? Can he throw the long ball? It's all Tyreek. Tua's riding on Tyreek's cape. Not only did he not ride on Tyreek's cape, but Jalen Waddle wasn't even in the game.
Mhm.
8 touchdowns scored on the ground. 4 by Mostert, 4 by uh, Ashan, I think his name is, how it's pronounced. None of us saw that coming. We thought that maybe it would be the mid-game Barrios, Durham Smythe. It might be that kind of a deal with Waddle out, a heavy dose of Mostert. I didn't see this coming. And then you get the backup quarterback coming in there and throwing for his life. Lauderdale kid wanting to be on the greatest stage he's ever been on. Just a fantastic experience, and it makes me wonder, what are you going to do for an encore?
Yeah, definitely. Well, how about you, Eddie? We I don't remember the last time I saw something like this. Like I said, it was a long time, and I'm sure you're very passionate. I know you, like me, you sometimes be frustrated about this team. So it should have been a great experience for you watching the game that this Sunday.
It was great. Of course, we've been on the other end of them
Hmm.
when Flores started with that. I believe it was
The
Baltimore.
Ravens
They,
game,
whew,
yeah.
and
Hmm.
it was nice to be on this end. But for me, everything starts with that offensive line. It's like they're taking it personal not to let anybody touch Tua. Um, they're opening holes I've never seen before.
Hmm.
And Mostert, he is running angry. He is tired of hearing about. He's tired of hearing about. We need another back.
I think he's
He's knocking
watching.
guys. He's not. He's not going down on the first time somebody touches him. He added them 10 pounds. He's knocking guys over. Look at that 4th and 1
Mm,
run on the goal line. He knocked a guy
yeah,
backwards, and A. Sean, I believe, is what he wants to be called. Boy, that is just. He's another guy. He's 5'8", but he doesn't go down on the first time somebody touches him. He's and then when he hits the hole, goodbye. It's amazing. I love it. They're going in a good direction. The defense played great again, and I'm just so happy they have the best coach they've had since Shula for sure.
yeah, most definitely. I was going to go to that. His coaching, the job Mike McDaniel is doing is just incredible. He's out matching everybody. He's out scheming everybody, and he has this team believing. We're going to talk later. This is going to be a huge matchup, a tough matchup this Sunday. But as far as coaching is concerned, I don't expect anyone to outcoach. Uh, it's been said, some of the pundits even said that last year McDaniel coached Sean McDermott. So we're gonna see what happens this Sunday. Steve, any last thoughts on the game?
I've got lots of thoughts,
Oh,
but
please.
no, I'm not going to take up the entire show here with it. But it's let's give credit to the people out in the social media world because they do 99.9% of the analysis that we sit and talk about and quote. I have a day job. We all have day jobs. We're not sitting here doing this, but so you see on Twitter/X the constant feed of the charts and how incredible is it for
Mhm.
everybody that's a Dolphins fan right now to go from where we were seeing our quarterback, our team in general, in the bottom left hand corner of those charts that shows, man, they're just trash, where so many of our players are in the upper right quadrant now. And it's because our team has been tailor made to fit a coach. It's everybody came together at the same exact time. McDaniel was a year late to getting to really help build it, but it was the perfect timing for everybody to come together, for Coach Fangio to be here to pick up a relatively young, overly talented but underutilized strengths within our defense. I think it's incredible to have that happening. And another thing that I saw last week that I didn't get a chance to talk about is Tua's time to throw is the
Mhm.
fastest in the league.
Mhm.
However, his average depth of target is by far the deepest.
That's lethal.
It's absolutely lethal, and it reminded me of, and I like to give shout outs here to people that we listen to or have on the socials, but Rob Profit, his hashtag or his tag is breaking down
That
film.
film.
I've been on here for like 12 13 years on the social media platform, and we've been following each other a lot of the time. We were both in the Air Force together. Matt Armstrong, we were in the Air Force as well. But when Tua was drafted, he was skeptical because of his injury history, but he was very, very realistic in saying Tua can be the best. However,
Mhm.
he's not going to be the best until you build a team that fits what he needs.
Mhm.
In his first year, what did we have? Our leading rusher was Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's just in the backfield, but the receiving core, all due respect, they're world class athletes, but they were subpar. They were nothing.
Not
None of
up to
them are in the league
standard.
anymore. It's not up to standard.
Mhm.
So Chris Greer, Mike McDaniel, the organization went out there and built the team that fit what he does best. Being at a certain spot, being downfield, and the head coach is strategizing an offense that fits exactly that. It's a incredible marriage of everything that really needed to materialize for Tua to be successful. But there's so much more than that. The offensive line producing now, running backs. I've been a huge Mostert fan since he stepped in here, just knowing, yes, he has some injury history in the past. Last year he did 16 out of 17 games, wasn't utilized enough, but he's always broken a lot of tackles, and as Eddie just said, he's just bowling people over. He is running like trying to prove a point to say, you doubted me, I added those extra pounds, and I'm still just as fast, and I'm going to continue to succeed on here. It was just absolutely incredible, and I think that we need to pay a little bit of respect in this to a couple people. First of all, Tua in the no look shovel pass. I still just kind of shudder. I get that. Oh my God, that is so beautiful. Every time I see that replay of him just stepping like this and looking at the defender and going like that with his offhand, it's just one of those things that just makes me like, oh my God. Okay, thought number 2, Jason Sanders. I really believe that if we're at the 15-yard line, there is a chance that McDaniel does kick that field goal. If they're going to let us score, hey, we're going to be down there. Maybe he does it. Maybe I give McDaniel some credence to what he's saying. My honest belief in this is that he didn't want to stroll out Jason Sanders in front of a raucous, ready to see the record broken home crowd, and Jason Sanders goes out there and kicks a field goal and misses it. And at that point, people won't remember that we were the highest scoring team since 1966. They will remember that we were one kick away from breaking that record. And damn it, it's Jason Sanders. I didn't want to see that happen to him. I tweeted out, with like a minute left on the clock, a gif of him like sweating. I just know that he's like, oh my God, please just fumble,
Don't do
take a
it.
knee, something, don't do this to me. But I really think that there's a level of humility for McDaniel to say we're not going to totally destroy them and set a record on the Broncos. But I think that part of it was the fact that he knew that he didn't want to risk Jason Sanders' psyche with that. Last thought, TD the mascot. I see that part, towards the end of the game, he stopped trying to do push-ups. He's like, I'm going to do crunches right now. But I tried doing the math earlier today. How many push-ups did the poor guy have to do before he's like, I can't do it anymore? So anyway, that's all I've got. Like I said, I've got a lot of stuff. I have even more, but I've talked enough. Phenomenal. I'm going to relive that game for a long time.
I just want to say before I throw it back to Matt and Eddie, uh, I want to believe that you're probably right, stating that you're probably right about that. If there, first one, if it was Sean Payton, he would have kicked that field goal, no matter what.
Hands down.
And second, I personally I want to believe that Mike McDaniel, for a second thought, we have a bigger goal than have this kind of record. That's what I want to believe. I know you're probably right, but that's what I truly want to believe. Matt, any last thought about the Broncos game?
I think the last thing that I want to mention is I talked about it a little bit more earlier. We had 2 backs that scored 8 touchdowns between the 2 of them. And when you think of Tyreek and Tua only went for 309 only. 309 is kind of pedestrian if you look at what he did week 1. Remember, 466.
Mm-hmm.
And there were hammerheads out there who were crying about him as if he was bragging about the 466. No, he was basically telling everybody, shut up about whether I can go, long or pile up numbers. He went for 309. No big deal. Spread it around. As complete a game as I've ever seen, and they weren't even fully manned. And one last thing. I hear Steve. I love his theory on Jason Sanders. There's probably some truth to it. If you got McDaniel in a corner and, hey man, tell the truth. But I want a couple things. Number one, the Saints came into Miami back in 2009, beat the Dolphins, scored a bogus touchdown that the officials allowed to happen, and it never should have happened. That was a Sean Payton team. They won the Super Bowl that year. Fast forward to last year, Payton's on somebody's TV show, and he announced that Tua's not going to finish the season. He'll be replaced by Bridgewater. And if you listen to that soundbite, it was matter of fact. It was regardless if it's due to injury or because he's outplayed, Bridgewater's going to replace Tua. So I want to believe, as Steve believes, that somewhere deep down inside that there's very much an fu in there to Payton, uh, in his his mindset. Listen, he's an offensive genius. He's got a lot of cachet in the league, a lot of fans. Well, I'll just go ahead and say he's a great coach. But how you like me now?
Eddie.
Um, Speaking of FUs, Chris Greer could say that to me because when he said, I think he was at a press conference and he said, "I'm not worried about the offensive line, only you guys are." And I went, "You have the gall to say that with these guys?" And now, I mean, the Butch Berry hire, way underrated, amazing. They that move, the guard for Win is awesome. He's been one of the best linemen. But for the plays, the one that really gave me goosebumps was, I believe it was Mostert that at near the goal line. Mostert went on like a jet sweep, and then Tua kind of no look handed it off to Ashawn, and he scored. That was an amazing play call and play design. It's just so good to see it.
Amazing. Steve, any last thought about the game?
No,
I
I mean, I feel like we paid a lot of attention to the defense. Let me just give a shout out. If it's not for that one kickoff return for a touchdown, it's
Yes.
what, take away 7. Now it's a 57-point curb stomping. Who knows? Javon Holland played lights out.
yeah.
Justin Bethel, very unsung younger player on this team. Every time you see him, he is around the ball. It's a team that is young, that is coalescing, and it's exciting to see where we're going to be going in the weeks to come here.
I'm gonna say something. One last thought before we go to the next topic. So I don't think anyone has said about this, about the game. Somewhere, Stephen Ross must be smiling when he said, Sean Payton talked, and we lost some picks because his blabbermouth said that we were pursuing him, and I got the bigger, I had the best coach, I got the bigger laugh. So somewhere Stephen Ross must be smiling. So